Once upon a time, there was a little puppy. Yeah, a little puppy. Maybe a baby Welsh Springer Spaniel. I'll go with that. She'll be a spaniel. And now she had a bit of a rough start to life. She was born to a wild dog. Yeah, a wild dog. A feral dog. So feral, in fact, that she had never, ever seen a person. This puppy's mother. She did not know anything of people, so she didn't know to tell her puppies of people. Yeah. So, eventually, as happens, people encroached on the spaces that were not initially theirs. They encroached on the spaces where these feral dogs lived, encroached on their lives, and being people, they felt the need to cause a bother. And these puppies, well, they were awfully cute, so people figured they should grab the puppies, bring them to a new home, perhaps, even though they were quite at home in their wild surroundings. But this one particular puppy, she refused. She would not go. She would not go. Her siblings were taken. Her mother fought on their behalf, but could not save them. And she got away. But she didn't get away with a method that would keep her with her mother. Rather, she got away by jumping into the water, into the rapids, and they were all sure that she died. And perhaps, in a way, she did. For when she got out of the water, when she stepped onto the banks, sandy banks, when she saw the woods before her, it was nothing like where she had grown up, nothing like anything she'd seen. The trees were massive and darkness shrouded throughout. Darkness shrouded the woods. There was nothing she could really make sense of. It was quiet. So quiet and so dark. And she wasn't sure if it was because it was night or if she was someplace else entirely. Someplace where light could not touch. She curled up below one of the big trees, the friendliest looking of the bunch, and she hoped that when she woke, it would be light again, that all of it would be a bad dream, that her mother would be there, that her siblings would be there, that she wouldn't be all alone in such a dark place, such a dark, vast place. But when she woke, it was still dark, and yet she was not alone. It was not her mother or siblings that stood by her, though. There was a fellow, a man, sort of, because he wasn't like any man she'd seen. He had an air about him that seemed odd, like he wasn't part of this world, not exactly, or he wasn't part of any world, exactly. He was just there, but he wasn't actually. He was only there in spirit, perhaps, and he didn't have a body, exactly. He wore a nice get-up from some time before she had lived. Fancy, well thought out. But it was muddy and it was ratty and it wasn't what it would have once been. But the strangest thing about him was how he moved. He moved as though he wasn't something exactly so much as he was part of the forest. As though the forest was moving him like a pawn. He stood before her, glancing down at her. There was a gentle look in his eye, a look of sorrow perhaps as well. It was in that moment that she realized that, in some way or form, she had died in the river, in the rapids. But she was not gone. She was there, she was thinking, so in some way, in some place, she still existed. He reassured her, told her that it would be fine, that everything would be fine, that now she may not be where she was before, but she had a role to play. She was important. At first she was too scared to ask what he meant, but when he called her, she followed. There was nothing else she could do. There's nothing better than following, no better option. And he was so gentle, so sure of himself, of where they were, of who they were. She couldn't help but trust him. He was like that. Yeah, hi, Arnie. Hi. So she followed him, and she found that as she followed him, the forest, it got more lively. There were creatures about, all these creatures, and eventually they reached this cabin. It was homely, warm and nice, and inside there were 6 other dogs, all different breeds: a Great Pyrenees, a Bernese Mountain Dog, tiny little Chihuahua, a Bichon Frise. How many is that? That's 4. So there's 7 of them total, including her. So 2 more. A husky. And a red coonhound. They were all so friendly. She went to them hesitantly, and they greeted her with all the love in the world. She was one of them now. She didn't understand what that meant, but she knew that it was true. She knew she was part of something, that she had a role to play. That night, the fellow with the gentle, sorrowful eyes and not quite there appearance, he told them the story. The other dogs knew it already, but they listened patiently, eagerly watching her, seeing how she would react. He told her what they were part of. They were part of this cycle. That the 7 of them, that they were part of the hunt, the great hunt. That once a month, all of them together, with him leading them, they would hunt this great stag. Always the same stag, always the same dogs, apart from new ones that got added in over time. And they would hunt the stag, they would kill the stag, they would use all that there was from the stag, and then, a month later, they would hunt the stag again. The stag knew as well what it was part of. The stag was a proud creature. It was proud beyond measure, and it knew that its purpose, that being killed once a month, is what kept the world turning. That this hunt on a monthly basis, it's what made everything function as it was meant to. That it moved the moons and earth and everything. That everything happened as it was meant to. because of the great hunt. They all did what they had to, and they all took pride in it. And soon this little dog, this puppy, she would become part of it for the next hunt. She wasn't sure of herself yet. She was scared. She didn't understand exactly how a creature could want to be killed monthly, how a cycle could keep the world turning. But she took part. She did what she could. And when they hunted the stag, when the stag lay dying, she approached him. This was her only chance, after all, to ask him questions. And she asked, "How can you willingly be a part of this? Don't you suffer?" And he told her that yes, in the end he suffers. For the rest of the month he is overjoyed. He experiences the beauties of the world, and it is all worth it to keep the world turning. That for the world to change and turn as it must, things must end, things must begin, and things must change, and things must end, and there is no other way around it. And he is happy for the time he gets each time, that the time he gets, the joy he feels, the suffering is worth it. And more than that, it is worth it for every other being, that the world may turn properly, that they may be born and live and grow and change and eventually die. But that is the way it has to be. There is no other way. That is life. Life is change. And she understood, or at least she thought she did. And as each month passed, as she went on great hunt after great hunt, then she truly understood, as she enjoyed the month throughout, and the sorrowful experience of killing the stag. But it was all worth it to all of them. The life they got, it was worth it, even if it had to end.